Morning.
Morning.
Good. Glad it happened.
Glad
it happened.
What's that?
Glad Nick Chubb had a touchdown run. Glad Baker Mayfield had to come from behind win in the final seconds. Glad it happened. Good.
Yeah, this game seemed to be on everybody's radar yesterday.
We kind of put it on everybody's radar. You wanted Keith to put a push button notification
so much
out.
So, yes, that we put out the push button notification.
I know what the overnight rating was. You better text your guys and your TV stuff. Andrew Marchand, okay?
Oh, this was great yesterday. Because I tweeted it out when, I'm guessing it was Keith, unless he'll say it was the company.
Okay, yeah.
That has control over that. It says
it's the company.
He is.
It says Baker
Mayfield. Corporation of the WWE in the early 2000s.
What's it say, Anthony?
It says Baker Mayfield versus Nick Chubb. Here, Westwood One's coverage of Buccaneers Texans. Now on 92.3 The Fan.
I just enjoyed Kevin Harlan personally.
I
all sorts
almost
of
went,
emojis.
that's the company until you put on 92.3 The Fan.
Yeah. Wasn't the company. It was Keith. Keith Britton is the company. He's the corporation, so it was the corporation who did it. It was Keith. Keith did it. That's the way it goes.
So I was locked in. I even had the phone as I was reading Young Mason stories. Llama Llama Red Pajama.
Did you rap it or just read it normal?
I thought you were regaling him with tales over the 2019 win over the Baltimore Ravens on the road where Nick Chubb went crazy.
I might have to give him some of the great tales of yesteryear. All yesteryear, by the way. not current year. But I had the phone perched up, and I was sitting there with Mason in my lap, and really, it was just because my wife's in the other room reading to the daughter, and it just wanted to make it sound like I was reading to Mason when really I was just staring at the game.
Yeah, of course.
I don't blame you. Read the book enough times, you know.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I know the book.
Yeah.
He's too stupid to know the book or even hear any of the stuff I'm reading to him.
I don't blame you.
So I was pretty locked in. This game was awesome in the first quarter, and then the second and third, it was kind of a snoozer, and then in the fourth quarter, it was amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad it happened. And I think it's, I'm glad this whole conversation is going on. I'm glad that you just told me that you faked reading a story to watch Baker Mayfield author a comeback. I'm glad that I had a story to tell about my kids being sent to the neighbors to swim, and then me at the end of the game yesterday, or two days ago, going, boy, I spent 4 hours watching that. It could have been over with my kids making memories, I guess, but whatever.
Could have been faking stories.
Could have been faking stories. Could have been doing that. I'm glad it's all happening. It needs to happen. I got one guy. He is absolutely obsessed with Baker Mayfield. I got a listener named Danny who, there's like 8 emails here. Like he live emails me during the game.
Just one? I've got 30 people.
Well, I just
continuously tweeting me.
Well, no, mine are...
You were wrong. You guys ran them out of town.
Mine are emails. I didn't run anybody.
You deserve to languish in it. Like, I just... There's so many to wake up to today.
I can't... If I was that powerful, there'd be a lot of different things I would have done. Because, yes, I will stand on the wrongness of it, where I wanted Baker Mayfield gone. Now, I think there's a lot of revisionist history here, but fine,
yeah, we've
whatever.
gone over all that.
I have to stand for my opinions. I got a microphone in front of me. A lot of us can just change our opinions willy-nilly all we want. But I did not want to replace him with Deshaun Watson. And you know that, and we were willing to say that yesterday. But they did, and the people who are, quote-unquote, obsessed with Baker, the people that want it, and then there's a lot of folks who go, you know what, these people need to get over it. It was 4 years ago. We got to move on. No. And the reason why I say no is because it's not about do we need to relearn a history lesson of not getting rid of a guy. I think that if many people were honest with themselves, they knew that the situation in 2021 at the end of that season had come to a loggerheads. He was not in the right headspace. He wanted a contract. They weren't going to give him that contract. It was bad. Why I believe that they're necessary is so we don't make the same mistakes that we made leading up to that. He was given far too great a power at far too young an age with far less maturity than he has now. And he was not ready for that. And so we need to go back and re-examine why we made those decisions that we made, or the Browns made those decisions that they made, why they made those mistakes that they made. It has to be re-examined. So as annoyed as you want to be with the people who went with Baker and wear their Baker jerseys and Baker. No, sorry, they're unnecessary. They are, I won't even call them an evil, not evil. They are a necessary part of the fan base. And I believe they're absolutely necessary. And I believe we need our nose rubbed into it every single time he has a good performance.
So you think it's helpful?
Yes,
so
I do.
How do you think everyone what lessons will be learned
I hope
in this case?
Well, I do believe, and this is why I don't think that Deshaun Watson will hit the field unless it's an absolute emergency. I do believe...
Which we seem to get every single year.
They pay attention. Well, yeah, that's true. So we'll see. But I do believe that they listen to the fans. I don't know if they always do right by the fans, but I think they listen to the fans almost as much as any franchise you're going to find. And I believe that this will be a history lesson for them that they will never, ever forget. Because I don't know if he's going to go on to be Patrick Mahomes or crying out loud, but I mean, he's good. He's really, really good. He's definitely I heard Pat Boyle during the update. He's definitely a top 10 quarterback. I mean, good God. He's got weapons out the wazoo. He uses those weapons the right way. And I could sit there and try to give everybody go, it wasn't going to be this way in Cleveland. We were never going to get this guy. Yeah, well, you know what? The victors get to write the history books, and they could always say that if you would have been patient and wouldn't have traded for a guy who ended up being suspended for the first 11 games for things we don't want to talk about or allegations we don't want to talk about, then fine. But I look at it and go, this is a valuable history lesson for the next guy that we get. Because the next guy we get, I mean, clearly,
well,
I mean,
wait. What do you think the lesson is? Because, you know, we've gone over the autopsy on this thing a million times.
I just said it. You weren't paying attention.
No. I was paying attention, but Kenny,
I don't think you were.
But Kenny, Joe Buck was perfect last night on the call of this because they did it seems like almost every big game, they go over the career arc of Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
He didn't go after the Browns. He didn't say, well, the Browns wronged him or the Browns made the mistakes. He said there was a big question about whether or not Baker Mayfield would even be in the league. He was fighting for his career. Yeah. And he talked about bottoming out and what happened in Carolina. And then McVay taking a flyer on him and how he was literally a step away from being out of the league. So you just, if I would have just tuned in and heard you, would have been like, mistake. And I think Joe Buck had it more accurately, which is this guy was almost out of the league. Kudos to him for rallying and for evolving and learning because, and it took some people along the way. But I was glad that Joe Buck didn't just throw the organization under the bus and make it seem like it was the fans or the media. You're making it sound like it's all of our faults. We have to learn from this. No. I don't feel like I have to learn anything. I got to give Baker credit.
You never feel like you
I'm going to give Baker a ton of credit, which is what I think the story is.
Because when we get because you didn't hear the part where I said it's the decisions leading up to the moment of 2021 where they decided that they had to move on. Is that I think that the organization enabled him in the wrong ways. I mean, the guy had a hand in the hiring of a guy who ultimately started to lead to his downfall in Freddie Kitchens. They let him play with that shoulder that he should have just got surgery on. I understand that they didn't know, and I do believe that a lot of it was
equally. I thought him and his team were equally responsible for that disaster. I remember coming on the air saying Baker and his team are costing him so much money, which in the interim they absolutely did.
But, we got to be adults about it and say, hey, right now you're not going to get the contract that you want because of XYZ. I also think part of it was ego. I look at the guy out in San Diego. He didn't want him. I don't believe he wanted Baker Mayfield. I believe that John Dorsey decided he wanted himself a swordsman. He liked Baker Mayfield. He made the decision. I think that those two sides were at loggerheads with each other clearly. And that what John's mistake was he went too far that way. And what their mistake was after John was gone was going too far the other way. And Baker, I think, was a representation of things they didn't like about John Dorsey. So already he started with some questions about that. And it worked well with Kevin year one. He gets hurt year 2 throwing to a wide receiver that we drafted in the 3rd round. He gets hurt year 2 with Kevin Stefanski, and he continues to go down this path. What I want to learn from is when we do this with the next guy, because the next guy ain't going to be perfect. When we do this with the next guy, what can I draw from the Baker experience before they got rid of him? What can I draw from the Baker experience that might help me make a clear decision with this fella? Because it ain't going to be easy, whoever they get. We are going to have good Mondays in here where I guarantee you, unless they go out there and they just make the wrong decision, which is possible, but they'll probably have a very high draft pick this coming April. They will probably draft a guy as a quarterback very highly in the draft, clearly. And we will have good Mondays where we think we have a franchise guy, and we'll have Mondays where we're kind of wondering, I think we're going to go through it the same way. I think we're going to have a lot of the similar Mondays that we had with Baker. I really do. With the quarterback class that's out there right now, you're going to take one of them. I think we're going to have a lot of the similar conversations. What do we do to save so-and-so from themselves? I don't know who that is. He's still in college right now. What do we do to bring him along? What mistakes do we give? What mistakes do we did with Baker that we can correct this time around with this guy? Like I always made the analogy, and you probably roll your eyes to the point because I've said it so many times that you probably text Keith about it, where I would take my keys.
So defensive, Jesus.
Well, because I know how you are. I would take my keys and shake them, not about a Chagrin Falls thing, but I said, my criticism of the Browns back then with Baker was, just because you know he's going to drive doesn't mean you hand him the keys to my truck when he's 8 years old. Eventually, he leads the franchise, but if he's not ready to be the head of the franchise, you can't involve him in executive decisions. I mean, there were guys, Hall of Famers, who, yes, had say in a franchise, but that came later on. Peyton Manning had say in the franchise himself later on. Tom Brady always was fighting for the say in the franchise throughout his entire career with Bill Belichick. And we just were like, yeah, Baker, you help pick the coach. Yeah, you helped pick the guy who was clearly not ready to be a head coach. I mean, I like Freddie as a guy, but come on. Like, that was part of the mistake, and we let him be a part of that decision-making process, much to our detriment, and much to his detriment. Because maybe if they would have gotten Kevin a year earlier, maybe we would have avoided all this. Maybe if we would have stood there and said, listen, you are a shot at what we have for the future. You must sit and repair your shoulder. Listen, you cannot play against the Detroit Lions just because you think that you're going to run it up against them, because that's what he thought he was going to do. We can't let you play against the Detroit Lions because that's not Prairie View A&M over there. That's still a professional football team. And then they won, and remember, he wouldn't do the postgame podium because he was so upset. And that was part of what drove him away. And he was a much different person then than he is now. I have to learn from those mistakes. So, yeah, I don't want to tell them to just go away because it feels like I don't want to go back to the past and learn from the past and make our situation better with any one of the quarterbacks that we will be talking about all winter long. I am, as much as I talk about the past here, I'm trying to prepare for the future.
The funny thing is, Todd Bowles was 24-40 as a head coach, when he was with the Jets. And now, we're just assuming or everybody's come to grips that he's playing for this great head coach in Tampa Bay now.
That's another thing that annoys me because I think you're going to be on the same page I am. I mean, they were close to firing him. If they didn't get in the postseason last year, remember, they almost didn't make the postseason last year. He's in a bad division, and they were talking about firing him if they didn't go out there and make that playoffs or win the division and make the playoffs last year. It was that close. Now all of a sudden he's Mike Tomlin. Now all of a sudden he's this great coach that knows. Okay.
And they look loaded. Their team looks absolutely loaded, and they're missing one of the big time targets. They're missing their left tackle, right? So, I mean, this team looks like they could be a team. It's a Super Bowl contender. I don't know, because would anybody pick them to beat?
They were the
Philly?
Dark horse on everybody's dark horse Super Bowl pick, and it's because the NFC has Philly, and then you don't know for sure.
Does it matter what he
Green
does?
Bay looks good, but
does it matter what he does in the playoffs for us? Like, can the people that are still skeptical of Baker, can they still be vindicated if he just doesn't do anything in the playoffs?
Yeah. in some fashion.
But he's been picking up playoff wins. That's not playoff runs, but he's been getting playoff wins.
Well, how many wins does he have?
He has 2 or 3.
But
if you include that.
Well, this is the thing: is that if you go out there, we don't have a baseball bat in the fight. We have our arms tied behind our back. They have a quarterback that I don't think is a top 5 quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. Let's call it what it is. And they're going to make the playoffs more than likely, and he'll probably go and maybe win a playoff game or 2. Who knows? We're not going anywhere this year. So and our quarterback, people don't want to see, and we're waiting. We're counting down the days to letting him go. He's an albatross, in the words of Troy Aikman. So I have no other choice but to be in my wrongness and accept my wrongness and try to learn from the mistakes of the past. I don't want to overcorrect and take a bad situation too far in the future, but we have to learn from our mistakes in the past. And Baker Mayfield, whether you like it or not, is a representation of a big mistake that we've made in the past. So I'm not going to tell Baker fans, I'm not going to tell fans just get over it or tell Baker fans to shut up. If anything, the opposite. I must be reminded of every good performance that he has.
So how often do we have to do this show, this segment?
Well, how many big Monday night games do they have? How many big ones? Unless Dylan Gabriel goes out there and plays well, or Shedeur Sanders goes out there and plays well, or until we have ourselves a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback that goes out there and plays really, really well, then we will officially...
Sounds like could be a lot of these shows.
How long will Ken's diabolical question be relevant?
The beatings will continue until morale improves. The beatings will continue until we find ourselves a quarterback. 216-474-0092. It's that simple. I'm willing to accept reality. This is as realistic as it gets.
Go.
Would you give up 2 first-round picks, the 2 first-round picks next year for Baker Mayfield? 216-474-0092. There you go.
Boy.
That'll fix your wagon, won't it? You have to give context to that. That was a punishment.
Okay.
For people
now
saying...
we're doing that on this show, too?
Exactly. That was... there's context here. That was punishment for people saying terrible things that I cannot repeat during coming in hot that we had to dump. You were the one who got mad on Friday. You were the one. I mean, I was getting nasty messages about Owen.
Enough to start asking about that.
You wanted the punishment. I gave you the punishment.
No, I didn't. He asked for the diabolical question.
Because
they turned out. This is not what the point of the thing is.
Fine.
You're deflecting from. Are you still happy with asking that question?
Hell yeah, I'm still happy I asked that question. I did my job.
Do you think that's still a relevant question? You think there's any way in hell that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would go, well, we'll take...
No.
They can have picks 1 and 2, and do you think they're taking him from Baker Mayfield?
No.
Oh, he's being compared to Brett Favre last night. He was throwing rockets. He had the unbelievable third down run in the fourth quarter.
I certainly hope he doesn't have the same retirement as Brett Favre. And a hush came over the room. 216-474-0092. Do fans need to get over Baker? Are you telling people they need to get over it?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. It sounded like we were about to fight about it.
No. I'm asking when, because like for the people that understand that this was a two sides problem. I know in America we don't like to blame two sides. We don't like to blame one side, and we go to battle with our one side as we go against the other side. In this case, this was a two-sided issue. Baker's admitted that. That's the funny thing about it when people come after the media, because we ran him out of town.
I don't run anywhere.
It's like, man, Baker has admitted culpability. I know the fans will never say that he was responsible for anything because he's a player. So they want to go after the leadership and the team. And believe me, there's plenty of blame to go around. There absolutely is plenty of blame to go around.
And I think that what it is again, you're 0-2. You were terrible last year. You made the playoffs again last year.
And you're supposed to be bad this year, yeah.
And I think a lot of it is that these fans, whatever this is, it must end. It must end. So I think what their problem is that when you hear, I see people get viscerally mad during press conferences. And I'm not like Kevin's out there every day. It is what it is.
Saying nothing.
Yeah, because when you're the head coach of a bad team, you're asked questions you really can't answer. You're asked questions,
but even the questions he can answer, he refuses to.
And he refuses to.
So
yeah,
he's not doing himself any favors.
He doesn't have
a
great bedside manner. Doesn't have a great bedside manner with everybody. You're right about that. But I think that what fans are upset about is that, I think they think that ego led to this. Where, John's guy was Baker. Where if you look at a lot of the analytical stuff, even though I think that we've seen evidence to the contrary, it's like, I don't think they would have picked Baker Mayfield. Well, then those people were still technically around with Paul DiPodesta, and then they were put back in charge after John Dorsey was let go. So then it felt like an overcorrection to the overcorrection. And now those people are still in charge, and you've had one playoff run that was kind of by accident in so many ways for a lot of people, and you've had a quarterback that's played poor football. We have the one good half, and that's it. Yeah. And people don't want to see him out there. He doesn't want to be here.
They don't want to see him in Cleveland.
They don't want to see him in Cleveland. They don't want. He doesn't. I don't think he likes it here. I don't think they like him here. And they just want this to end and to move on. And I think that will do a lot. I hate to point it out like that, but at the end of this year, it's why I said what I said yesterday, is that you'll get to the end of this year, you will be drafting a new quarterback, and I do believe because you will not have a good win-loss record, you'll probably move on from people like the general manager and like the head coach and start fresh with new people. Because if you were going to, and some people say, well, and I don't want to talk about something we're going to talk about later on. I don't want to give away what we can sell. Well, why wouldn't they have done it last year? I think the Browns knew they were going to be bad. I think ownership knew they were going to be bad. And if I'm Jimmy Haslam, I do think of the moment where I go, do I let go of these guys right now? Or do I leave them there and not have a new guy here where by the end of this year, we're not going to win many games this coming year in 2025. So if we're not going to win that many games, I'm just putting a new general manager and a new head coach in a position where the fans don't trust him and don't like him. Because you'll get to the end of this year and nobody likes guys who don't win. So then they'll be calling for their dismissal.
And there will be so much stink on their hands by that point.
And there will be stink on them. So now I get to air it out at the end of this year and go, okay, you did the best you could. It's been 6 years. Not all of them good. I almost said good. It's been 6 years. That's a pretty decent run in the NFL. We wish you well and everything else.
That's a miracle here.
Yeah, we wish you well and everything else. And then new coach, new general manager, new quarterback, and you try to put your best foot forward. And you try to put your best foot forward with a couple of pieces, a cornerstone, but really you're going to be a building franchise again. That's what they're going to try to do. So I think it's those fans where they look at it and they're mad because I got the guy who, yes, was controversial while he was here, but he's out there playing well. He's hugging a guy who is never controversial, who we always loved in Nick Chubb at the end of that game. So we see two of our guys who one was good, one who is absolutely beloved here and always will be beloved here, hugging at the end of the football game last night. And I still got these guys who seem to answer for nothing and tell us that we like to zig when other teams zag. Maybe you should zag when other teams zag because you're 3-14 when you zig and other teams zag. Maybe our processes aren't necessary. Our guardrails aren't the best guardrails. Maybe we should just have some stupid football guys in.
We got data points, though.
Elton and Garfield, you're next up with the fan. Hello, Elton.
Good morning, Kenny.
Hi, Elton.
Good morning, Anthony.
Hey.
So, I would like to say, first off, the problem starts with upstairs. The problem is not only Stefanski, Gary, DiPodesta, but Jimmy, too. Because there's no way you can look at this team and think, like, man, this is a good product we see on the field. Was Baker immature? Yes. But when he got injured, he does not trump the head coach or the general manager. They could have easily sat him down. But that let you know right then and there, he wasn't their pick. The downfall of this team started when they got rid of Dorsey because he was building this team in the right direction, and they have done nothing. Barry does not know how to pick talent, and analytics do not belong when it comes to drafting football players.
But Elton, I see your first point, but I got to tell you, I think that the major problem was the overcorrection to the overcorrection. Had John not been obsessed with power, and this is always something I will always criticize him for. You know he wanted that power. I think that's a big reason why he wasn't in Kansas City anymore. He wanted that power. He put Freddie Kitchens in there. You and I and the American people know that Freddie Kitchens was not going to hold much power at all, and Freddie Kitchens led to John Dorsey's downfall. He led to John Dorsey's downfall. They hired him, and remember, you always have your owner up there when you introduce a new guy. They weren't even up there when they hired Freddie Kitchens, when John hired Freddie Kitchens.
He may have wanted too much power, but the team he built Kansas City to what they are now. He built in San Diego to what they are now. He was doing that in Cleveland. But now we have this kerfuffle, and we got an old man back there trying to play quarterback still, which everybody need to be fired. Just fire everybody, including DePodesta, because you can't draft football players with analytics.
Yeah.
Because when they got on stage for the Browns and said, "Oh, we use analytics. We're going to go this way." You sound stupid.
Elton, I think you're going to get your wish, and it sounds silly. It does sound when we want to zag when other teams zig when other teams zag. It does sound silly. But and Elton, thank you for the call. I just think you're going to have to wait to get your wish. I think that they'll get to the end of this year, and they will move on, and we will bring it, and things will feel anew. You'll have a new coach. We'll get excited about that guy. You have a new general manager. We'll get excited about that guy. We'll have a new quarterback, and we will try to get excited about that guy. Because it's as wide open as it's ever been. So that means we're going to have some really passionate arguments about these guys right now or coming up.